Nia Moyle had never imagined that life could turn upside down in a single heartbeat. At 28, she was living what she thought was a happy, stable life in Lusaka. Her husband, Chikondi, was a devoted and loving partner, and together they had just welcomed twin babies into the world. Nia spent her days cradling the tiny, fragile lives she had brought into the world, dreaming about the future they would have as a family. Every coo and tiny yawn of her babies filled her heart with warmth and hope. She felt blessed, thinking that nothing could shake the world she had built with Chikondi. Then, without warning, tragedy struck. A phone call shattered the calm of her ordinary morning. Chikondi had been in a car accident. Nia's knees went weak, her world blurring as she tried to comprehend the words being spoken to her over the phone. By the time she reached the hospital, it was too late. Chikondi was gone. The man who had promised to hold her hand through every challenge, who had whispered dreams and plans for the future, was gone, leaving her in a silent house filled with emptiness. The twins cried in her arms, their tiny hands reaching for a father who would never return. In her moment of deepest grief, Nia turned to the people she had always believed would love and protect her, her own parents, Namsa and Bantam Whale. But even they, who once promised unwavering support, shocked her. After a brief visit, they coldly told her she could not stay with them, blaming her for the stress her loss had caused. Their words cut deeper than any tragedy she had faced, leaving her feeling abandoned and utterly alone. Nia sat in her quiet home, staring at the twins sleeping beside her, tears sliding down her cheeks. Her heart ached not only for the husband she had lost, but for the parents who had turned their backs on her. The world felt heavy and cruel, and she realized that she could no longer rely on the family she had once trusted. The loneliness pressed down, but somewhere beneath the pain, a flicker of determination began to spark. She had to survive, not just for herself, but for the tiny lives who now depended on her completely. Her life had changed forever, but Nia would soon learn that from tragedy could rise an unexpected strength she never knew she had. Nia barely knew what to do with herself. Lusaka felt emptier than ever, and the twins cried in a way that seemed to echo her own heartbreak. She had no family to lean on. Her parents had turned her away, leaving her feeling more alone than she had ever imagined. Then came an unexpected message. Chikondi's parents, Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba, wanted to help. They invited Nia and the twins to come live with them in Johannesburg. For a moment, Nia felt a twinge of disbelief. After all she had been through, could she really lean on her in-laws? Pride, guilt, and a strange mix of hope all collided inside her. The journey to Johannesburg was quiet. Nia stared out the window of the car, twins swaddled against her chest, her mind racing with doubt. She worried she was imposing, that she would feel like a burden in a household that wasn't her. What if she couldn't fit in, or worse, what if she wasn't good enough? But when she arrived, all her fears began to dissolve. Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba greeted her warmly, their eyes full of kindness. They didn't treat her like an intruder or a charity case, they treated her like family. Mama Zanil took the twins gently from Nia's arms and cradled them as if they were her own. Her voice was soft yet strong. "Nia, you are not alone. You have us, and together we will find your strength." Nia felt a lump in her throat. It was the first time in days that she felt safe, that the weight of grief seemed a little lighter. Mr. Themba smiled warmly, guiding her to a room that had been prepared for her, insisting that she rest, eat, and take care of herself. The simple gestures of care made Nia's heart ache with gratitude and shame. Gratitude for their generosity, shame for her parents' coldness. Over the next days, Mama Zanil became a quiet anchor for Nia. She shared stories of her own struggles, how she had faced loss, betrayal, and hardship but had always managed to rise again. She spoke of patience, resilience, and the power of family not defined by blood alone. Nia listened, captivated, absorbing every word like a thirsty plant soaking up rain. It was strange and beautiful to feel understood by people who weren't just her in-laws, but had become her support system. Still, guilt lingered in the corners of Nia's mind. She wondered if she was taking too much, if she was overstaying her welcome, or if one day their kindness might fade. But each small act of love from Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba chipped away at that guilt. Nia realized that she didn't have to be ashamed of accepting help. She had lost everything she thought she could rely on, and it was okay to lean on those who were willing to lift her up. By the end of her first week, Nia began to breathe a little easier. She watched her twins play under the warm Johannesburg sun, laughter bubbling from their tiny mouths. For the first time since Chikondi's death, she felt hope. Hope that life could continue, hope that she could rebuild, and hope that family could be chosen, not only inherited. Mama Zanil's gentle hands and Mr. Themba's steady presence reminded her that love sometimes came from unexpected places, and sometimes it could heal even the deepest wounds. Nia realized she wasn't alone anymore. For the first time, she felt a spark that maybe, just maybe, life could be beautiful again. Nia's days in Johannesburg began to take on a rhythm she hadn't felt since before tragedy struck. Every morning, she woke to the soft cries of her twins, quickly learning the art of juggling their tiny needs with the chores around the house. She washed, fed, and dressed them, learning to anticipate their every whim. At first, the exhaustion felt unbearable, but the gentle guidance of Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba made all the difference. They didn't just provide a home, they created an environment where Nia could slowly find herself again. Mama Zanil often watched Nia as she worked with the twins, a warm smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "You're doing so well, Nia," she would say. "Never forget that even in the hardest moments, you can still dream. You're stronger than you know." Mr. Themba added encouragement in his quiet way, helping Nia carry groceries, showing her the best ways to organize the house, and often reminding her, "The world is bigger than grief. There's room for your ideas too." Their words planted tiny seeds in Nia's heart, seeds that would slowly grow into hope and ambition. One quiet afternoon, as Nia sat in the sunlit kitchen rocking her twins, memories of her past began to flood her mind. She thought of her parents back in Lusaka, how cold and dismissive they had been after Chikandi's death, blaming her for their own discomfort. How different it felt here with her in-laws, where every act of love was genuine and every word offered support. The stark contrast struck her hard. She realized that family was not just about blood, it was about those who chose to stand by you when the world turned its back. These thoughts gave Nia courage to start thinking about her own future. She had always loved children and had a flair for creativity, so she began imagining a small business of her own. She sketched out ideas for a daycare center where children could learn, play, and be cared for with love. She also experimented with making handmade baby products, soft toys, blankets, and little outfits she could sell. At first, it was just a way to keep busy, but soon the projects became a lifeline, a way to channel her grief into something tangible and beautiful. Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba noticed every effort. They praised her creativity and encouraged her to take small steps toward independence. "You're doing something amazing, Nia," Mama Zanil said one evening as they sat sipping tea on the porch. "You're building not just a business, but a life. Your twins will grow up seeing a mother who never gave up." Their admiration gave Nia the push she needed to keep going, even when she felt unsure or tired. Slowly, Nia began to see herself not just as a widow struggling to survive, but as a woman capable of creating a new home and a new life. She watched her twins laugh and reach for her handmade toys, her heart swelling with pride. Every small accomplishment, each neatly folded blanket, each design perfected, felt like a victory. She realized that with love, guidance, and determination, she could build a life that was not just about surviving, but about thriving. For the first time in months, Nia felt a sense of peace, purpose, and most importantly, hope for the future. Nia had settled into a rhythm with the twins, and life in Johannesburg was starting to feel like home. But the city had its own challenges. Neighbors whispered when she passed by, casting curious or pitying glances at the young mother raising twins alone. Distant relatives from Lusaka began to call, not to check on her well-being, but to subtly question her choices and judge her circumstance. Every passing comment, every raised eyebrow, made Nia feel smaller, as if the weight of everyone's opinion was pressing down on her shoulders. She wondered if she was really enough as a mother, enough as a woman, enough to give her children a future free from shame and hardship. One afternoon, after a particularly difficult encounter with a nosy neighbor who asked why she hadn't returned to her parents' home, Nia sat in the living room holding her twins close. Her eyes filled with tears and doubt gnawed at her heart. Was she failing? Would her children ever grow up proud of her? Or would they feel the sting of society's judgment? She felt the familiar pang of loneliness settle over her like a heavy blanket. For a moment, it seemed easier to shrink into herself and give up on her dreams. That evening, Mama Zanil found her sitting quietly in the porch light, the twins asleep beside her. She sat down and placed a comforting hand on Nia's shoulder. "Nia," she said gently, "you're feeling what many women feel, but listen carefully. You cannot let the whispers of others shape who you are. They do not carry your story. You do. You decide the life you and your children will live." Mama Zanil shared stories of her own struggles, of times when neighbors and distant family had judged her harshly. She spoke of moments when society told her she couldn't achieve her dreams, but she turned that anger into ambition, using it as fuel to build a life she could be proud of. "Every harsh word, every sideways glance," she said, "is just a reminder of why you must rise higher. Show them your worth, not by proving them wrong, but by living a life so strong and beautiful that their judgment can't touch you." Nia listened, absorbing every word like a lifeline. Her heart, still tender from loss and abandonment, began to harden in resolve. She realized that the opinions of those who had never truly loved or supported her were meaningless. What mattered was the life she was creating for herself and the twins. She vowed, silently but fiercely, that she would never let anyone diminish her worth again. No gossip, no judgment, no bitterness from the past would take away the love, safety, and pride she wanted for her children. From that day, Nia began to carry herself differently. The whispers of neighbors and the doubts planted by relatives became mere background noise. Every smile from her twins, every step forward in her small business, reminded her of her strength. Loneliness still came at times, but it no longer felt like defeat. Instead, it became a signal, a call to action. Nia channeled her frustration and hurt into energy, determination, and creativity. She knew now, more than ever, that her children's future would not be shaped by the cruelty or judgment of others, but by the fierce love and ambition of their mother. Nia had always loved making things with her hands, and as she spent hours crafting tiny baby clothes for her twins, an idea began to take root. She realized that other parents might love the kind of soft, handmade outfits she was making, clothes filled with care, stitched with patience and love. At first, it felt strange to imagine selling them, but Mama Zanil encouraged her. "You've always had talent, Nia," she said. "Why not share it with the world? It's time your gifts help you too." With that gentle push, Nia set up a small online shop, unsure of what to expect but determined to try. The first few sales were small, but every order brought a spark of hope. Seeing people appreciate her work gave Nia a sense of purpose she hadn't felt since Chikandi died. She carefully packed each item, adding little notes of care, imagining the joy on the parents' faces when they received her creations. It wasn't long before word spread. Friends of friends shared pictures, and soon Nia's shop was receiving more orders than she could handle alone. The tiny apartment in her in-laws' home buzzed with activity, threads, fabrics, and soft cotton filling every corner. Financial independence, something Nia had feared she would never have, began to take shape. She could buy extra toys for the twins without worry, save for their future, and even help with household expenses. With each new order, she felt a growing sense of confidence. The grief that had once weighed on her chest began to transform, slowly turning into determination. Every stitch, every package was a step forward, a way to honor Chikandi's memory and give the twins the life they deserved. What struck Nia most was the unwavering faith her in-laws showed in her. Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba cheered every small success, celebrated every milestone, and reminded her constantly that she was capable of more than she believed. Their belief in her contrasted sharply with the coldness of her own parents, who had abandoned her when she needed them most. Nia realized that love and support, even from chosen family, could build strength far stronger than blood ties alone. As months passed, Nia began to take on more ambitious projects, designing seasonal collections, creating special gift sets, and even planning small workshops to teach other young mothers how to make their own handmade products. She discovered a side of herself she had never known, resilient, creative, and determined to rise above her past. The twins, watching their mother work with care and pride, seemed to sense the change too, their giggles and tiny hands becoming little reminders of why Nia was pushing herself forward. By the time her shop became well known in her community, Nia had transformed. She was no longer a young widow weighed down by grief and doubt. She was a mother, a creator, and a woman building a life she could be proud of. Her heart still carried the memory of loss, but it was no longer a chain, it had become fuel. Every success, every smile from a satisfied customer, every proud word from her in-laws reminded her that tragedy could be turned into strength, that the darkest moments could be the very ones that forged the brightest futures. Nia had discovered something powerful. Even when life abandons you, determination, love, and faith from those who truly care can turn heartbreak into a life of purpose, independence, and hope. Years had passed since the dark days of grief and abandonment. Nia's life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. Her online baby business was thriving, her twins were growing into happy, curious children, and Johannesburg had become a city that felt like home. She had found strength, independence, and a chosen family in Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba. Life was full, but then one afternoon, a message came that made her pause. It was from her parents, Namsa and Bantam Whale. They had heard about her success, about the thriving business she had built from nothing, and now they wanted to make amends. They asked if they could meet her and, more importantly, see the twins. Nia's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, old emotions, anger, pain, and disbelief surfaced. Could they really have changed after everything? Could years of coldness and abandonment be erased with a few polite words? When they arrived, Nia met them at the door with calm politeness. She greeted them, her voice steady but distant, welcoming them into her home without warning. Namsa and Banta looked nervous, shuffling their feet and offering forced smiles. Their words were careful, rehearsed. "Nia, we're so sorry for the past. We want to be part of your lives again. Can we meet the twins?" Nia's heart ached, but not in the way they expected. She looked at them and saw not genuine regret, but the surface-level guilt of people who had never truly understood her pain. She invited them to the living room, the twins playing nearby, and let them interact. Nia observed quietly, taking in their awkward gestures and empty apologies. She remembered the nights she had cried alone, the rejection she had faced from the very people who should have loved her unconditionally. She thought about how they had turned their backs at the worst possible time, blaming her for their own discomfort. And then she looked at Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba, the couple who had taken her in without hesitation, who had loved her and her children as their own, who had believed in her when no one else did. The contrast was staggering. Nia realized she didn't need to show anger, nor did she need to rush into forgiveness. She could remain composed, polite, and still protect herself and her children. She answered their questions with care, allowing the twins to smile and play, but she kept a careful distance in her heart. Every word her parents spoke reminded her of the years of hardship, of their abandonment, and of the love she had been denied. She recognized their attempts at connection as shallow at best, motivated more by pride and curiosity than by true remorse. As the visit ended, Nia walked them to the door. She smiled, firm but controlled. "I'm glad you could see the twins," she said. "They are happy, safe, and loved. That's what matters most." She closed the door behind them, feeling a quiet strength settle inside. Nia knew one thing clearly. Her parents' return did not define her life. The love of her chosen family, the life she had built with hard work and determination, and the bright future she was creating for her children were the true measures of her strength. She had survived abandonment and judgment, and now she could stand tall, free from the shadows of the past. Nia had begun to feel a quiet confidence in her life, but then came news that shook her in a way she hadn't expected. While reviewing some documents related to Chikandi's estate, she discovered something shocking. Her own parents had tried to claim a portion of what belonged to her late husband, despite having abandoned her and the twins years ago. The betrayal stung sharply, sharper than she thought possible. How could they, after turning her away when she needed them most, now try to take what was rightfully hers? For a moment, Nia felt the old anger rise, the familiar sting of hurt and disbelief. But she didn't let it overwhelm her. She knew that reacting in rage would not help her or the children. Instead, she gathered all the documents, proof of ownership, and legal papers she could find. Then she turned to the two people who had always been her pillars, her chosen family, Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba. She sat with them in the quiet of the living room, the twins napping peacefully in the other room. "I found out something," she said, her voice steady but tinged with pain. "Mom and Dad, they tried to take a part of Chikandi's estate. After everything, they thought they could just claim it." Mama Zanil reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We knew you could face this someday," she said. "But we're with you. We'll help you protect what's yours, what belongs to your children." Mr. Themba nodded, his expression firm. "It's time to show them that abandoning you does not mean they control your life. You have rights, and we will make sure they are respected." With their support, Nia worked tirelessly to prepare for the estate meeting. She met with lawyers, organized all the necessary paperwork, and reviewed every detail of Chikandi's estate. She practiced staying calm and composed, knowing that the confrontation with her parents would test her emotionally as much as legally. Every time doubt crept in, she remembered her twins and the life she was building for them. The day of the estate meeting arrived. Nia sat at the long table, papers neatly arranged before her, twins safe at home under the care of her in-law. Across from her, Namsa and Banta looked confident, perhaps expecting to intimidate her or catch her off guard. But Nia was calm. Every question from the lawyers, every objection her parents raised, she answered with clarity and precision. Her parents' smug expressions faltered as they realized that she was not the scared, helpless girl they had left behind. By the end of the meeting, the estate was legally secured in Nia's name and the twins' names. Her parents left stunned, unable to comprehend the strength and preparation of the daughter they had once abandoned. Nia, however, felt a quiet sense of triumph. She hadn't just protected her family's future. She had reclaimed her dignity, proving to herself and everyone else that betrayal could be met with courage, preparation, and unwavering resolve. For Nia, this was more than a legal victory. It was a statement. No abandonment, no betrayal, and no shallow remorse could ever define her life again. She had faced her past, confronted it with grace, and emerged stronger than ever. Nia could hardly believe the moment she was living. Years of hard work, late-night stitching, planning, and building her online baby brand had finally paid off in a way she never expected. Her business had gone viral across Southern Africa. Social media was buzzing with praise for her handmade baby clothes, and stories of her journey as a young widow raising twins while building a thriving business were spreading like wildfire. People weren't just admiring her products. They were inspired by her courage, determination, and resilience. The day she was invited to a media interview, Nia felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Cameras, microphones, and reporters crowded the small studio, and for a moment, she felt the weight of all the eyes on her. But then she thought of her twins, safe at home with Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba, and of the path she had walked to get here. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and let her story flow naturally. "I started this brand not just to create baby clothes," she said, her voice steady, "but to show that no matter what life throws at you, it's possible to rise, to create, and to protect the future of those you love. Motherhood, loss, and love have all taught me that family isn't always about blood. It's about the people who stand by you when no one else will. My in-laws believed in me when my own parents turned away. That belief gave me strength, and I hope it inspires other women to find their own courage." Her words resonated far beyond the studio. Social media users shared clips of the interview, praising her honesty, resilience, and creativity. Customers sent messages thanking her for her products, but also for her story, saying it gave them hope in difficult times. Orders poured in from countries across southern Africa, and Nia's little business that started as a way to cope with grief had grown into something far bigger, a symbol of determination and hope. Back at home, Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba watched the coverage on television, their faces glowing with pride. "Look at what you've built, Nia," Mama Zanil said, her voice thick with emotion. "This is more than a business. It's a legacy, and you've done it with grace." Mr. Themba smiled, adding, "You've shown that strength can grow from hardship. You've turned tragedy into triumph, and your children are seeing it every day." For Nia, the recognition was more than applause or media coverage. It was proof that she could rise above betrayal, loneliness, and every feature, every message, every compliment was a reminder that she had chosen the right path, that she had built a life on love, perseverance, and hard work. The twins, growing up surrounded by support and pride, would know that their mother's courage and determination were the foundation of their lives. That evening, as she tucked the twins into bed, Nia felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, but for the first time, she was confident that she could face them. Her story, her brand, and her chosen family had shown her, and the world, that resilience could create beauty, success, and hope even in the wake of loss. Nia had triumphed, and now the world was seeing what she already knew. Nothing could stop a mother determined to build a bright future for her children. Nia sat quietly in her living room one evening, the soft hum of the city outside blending with the gentle laughter of her twins playing nearby. She let herself reflect on how far she had come. It had been years since Chikandi's death, years since her parents had abandoned her when she needed them the most. At first, she had felt nothing but anger and hurt, the kind of deep, raw pain that made every day a struggle. But now, as she looked at the life she had built, she realized just how stark the difference had been between those who had betrayed her and those who had stood by her. Her parents, Namsa and Bantu, had walked away when she was grieving, refusing to help and blaming her for their own discomfort. Their absence had left wounds that she had carried for a long time. And yet, Chikandi's parents, Mama Zanil and Mr. Themba, had stepped in without hesitation, offering not just shelter, but love, guidance, and unwavering support. They had become the family she had always needed, teaching her that loyalty and care could be chosen, not just inherited. Nia thought about how they had celebrated her successes, encouraged her dreams, and nurtured her as she rebuilt her life. Their love had given her strength in ways that her parents never could. For a long time, Nia had wrestled with bitterness. She had wondered if she could ever forgive her parents for the years of neglect and pain. But now, she realized forgiveness wasn't for them, it was for her. Holding on to anger had only made her heavy. Forgiving them meant freeing herself from the chains of the past. She didn't need to invite them back into her life or pretend their actions were acceptable. She simply needed to release the grip that their betrayal had on her heart. In that quiet moment, Nia let go, feeling a surprising lightness wash over her. At the same time, she felt an even deeper sense of responsibility. She had created a safe and loving home for her twins, and that was her priority. She wanted them to grow up knowing what real love looked like, the kind that is loyal, nurturing, and supportive. She wanted them to see that family isn't just defined by blood, but by the people who stand beside you, especially in the hardest moments. Every hug, every bedtime story, every small victory in their lives was a reminder of the life she had built for them, a life rooted in love, security, and resilience. Nia realized that peace didn't mean forgetting the past. It meant acknowledging the hurt, learning from it, and choosing a better path forward. She had faced betrayal, grief, and loneliness, and she had come out stronger. She had built a family of love, a home filled with laughter, and a future full of hope for her children. And in that realization, she found a calm joy, a sense of closure that wasn't loud or dramatic, but steady and enduring. Looking out at the city lights, holding her twins close, Nia whispered to herself. I am free. I have forgiven, and I will continue to build a life of love, strength, and happiness for us all. She had made peace with her past, and in doing so had secured a bright, loving future for herself and the children she cherished most. Nia's life had grown bigger than she ever imagined. Her baby brand, which had started as a way to cope with grief, had expanded beyond online sales. She began hosting workshops for young mothers, teaching them how to make handmade baby products, manage small businesses, and take control of their futures. The joy of helping other women rise, especially those who had been abandoned or faced hardship like she once had, filled her with a sense of purpose that went far beyond financial success. Seeing the smiles of the women she mentored, hearing their stories of struggle and hope, reminded Nia of her own journey. She realized that her pain had transformed into power, and her experience could now inspire others. To take it a step further, she launched a foundation for abandoned or vulnerable women, offering resources, training, and support to help them build their lives with dignity and independence. Every success story, every life touched, reinforced the message she had learned so painfully. Resilience and love could overcome even the deepest betrayal. One sunny afternoon, Nia walked through a Johannesburg park, her twins' tiny hands wrapped around her. She felt the weight of the past behind her and the promise of the future ahead. The city buzzed around her, but she walked with calm confidence, proud and unstoppable. She thought about everything she had endured, the loss, the loneliness, the coldness of her biological parents, and everything she had gained, love, independence, and the power to shape not only her life but the lives of others. As she watched her twins laugh and run ahead for a moment before turning back to her, Nia smiled. Blood may abandon you, she whispered softly, but love chosen wisely can build empires. She knew her journey was far from over, but with strength, purpose, and her children by her side, she was ready to face anything. In that moment, Nia felt truly free, empowered, unstoppable, and at peace with the legacy she was creating.